Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Brotherly Banter podcast. My name is Sebastian. I'm joined here with Christian, and today we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're talking about the economy. We're going to talk about the housing market, and then we're also going to talk about. We're going to start out by talking about actually the bank that was bought out by J.P. Morgan and Chase today, which is the First Republic Bank. So, Chris, you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, so like Sebastian was saying, the bank looks like it was bought out by JP Morgan Chase. It was one that kind of failed recently, and you know, what was the other one in California? Was it the one in California? The
Silicon Valley Bank was a
Silicon Valley
couple
Bank.
of years ago. So
Yeah, there's a couple that have gone under, and which it's, if you really think about it, it's scary because if you have your money in these banks, um, if you have all your money or something tied up in these banks, you don't know what's going to happen, or if you're able to get anything out of it. And it seems to be happening more and more now. So we kind of want to just talk about what's going on and maybe how to avoid, and what to plan for in the future. I was actually just talking about this weekend with a bunch of friends, and they also mentioned that the U.S. is trying to roll out the digital currency, and I think here in Florida, the DeSantis is kind of pushing back on it, so it's causing a little bit of issues here as well. But I mean, eventually the dollar, they're trying to get rid of the dollar, and for those of you who believe it or not, it's going to be a way to control what we spend money on, and kind of track what we're spending money on. So um, eventually the banks are not going to have, people are scared, so they're pulling money out of the banks. The banks are not going to have any money to provide loans or credits with, and they're going to go under. So it's a snowball effect. It's going to affect everybody eventually if it does get bad. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
so when you go deposit money into a bank, let's say you deposit $100, the bank is only responsible having up to 10% of that. So $10 of the $100. So they don't have all the money. If everybody went to the bank to try to withdraw the money at the same time, they wouldn't have it. And I think my buddy was telling me he went to go withdraw, I think like $25,000, and they had him come back a different day because the branch doesn't even have that much at times. They have a limit of how much you can actually withdraw from the account.
Yeah.
So these banks that are failing, the Silicon Valley Bank, now this one that's failing, this bank's been around for 38 years. And this seems like we've seen this before, and what this was in 2008, right? With all the banks failing one by one.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if I remember correctly, there was, obviously we had a pretty big crisis there, and things are going bad.
Yeah, but I also think so. What's happening is that since there's a lot of inflation, I think a lot of banks are getting very it's hard to get out loans right now, like right. So people are not buying houses as much. The banks are not giving out loans as much, and that's what actually makes money for the banks, the loans. So that's kind of dried up, and I can only see it get more dried up in the next year or so. So it's kind of like a chain reaction, or just a domino effect. The first inflation, then the banks, and the housing, then the employment. Unemployment rate goes up. So I think I've been watching a lot of videos, a lot of research on this, and it seems like we are definitely heading into a recession. And a lot of people at first didn't believe we were heading into a recession because it didn't seem that way. Like it seems like there's inflation, but it doesn't seem like we're in a recession. But based on all the previous recessions in the past, there's always like that 12 to 18 month period where you feel like everything's okay, and then it kicks in. And I think that's where we're heading right now, that we're really going to start feeling it in the next 12 months. I think there's no way that we're going to avoid a recession, to be honest with you. I think it's just a matter of time because now you've seen banks going one by one. Inflation's out of control. The housing market seems, depending on the state, like Florida is an exception because Florida, everybody moved to Florida at the same time after COVID. So our market is still pretty strong, but other parts of the country it's not the same.
Yeah. And so talking about back to the bank stuff, like, so if you ever, like we're saying, deposit, you have an account, you deposit money into your savings account. If you ever moved money around in your accounts, too many times, you kind of get like an alert saying, hey, you only have a few limits, a few amount of times to move money from this account back and forth, because they're relying on that deposit to loan out to make money, like Sebastian was saying. Like, so they're using your money to make money. So if you keep touching your money while it's in the savings account, they kind of get worried because they don't know how to, they can't predict or plan what they're going to do with it, moving forward. So, a lot of people, and like you were saying, like the recession, we've been talking about recession for the last 2 years. It's not something that happens overnight. Recession comes gradually. It starts happening little by little. You don't notice it coming on, and then eventually, boom! It finally gets to a point where, like, wow, we're here. We are in the recession, and it crept up on us, but it doesn't happen overnight. Another thing is that if with the, I think it was last year or the year before, when the crypto was kind of really getting big, and we were talking about recessions, people were pulling a lot of money out of their bank accounts and putting into crypto, just because they were hedging against the inflation. Now we saw when the bank in the Silicon Valley Bank went under, Bitcoin shot up because people were pulling money out and investing in other things. So I don't think, crypto is kind of a different topic, but I think people are looking for other options to put their money into. Honestly, at this point, I don't even know what to do if I should pull money out myself and hide it under the mattress, because what happens if we have big banks that we use, but what happens if those banks get affected and all our money's tied up in these banks?
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about. So I would recommend everybody at least having a couple $1,000s on cash on them. So whether it's $5,000 or $10,000, whatever you have, like a certain percentage of your money you should have on you just in case. I'm not taking all my money out of the bank. It's FDIC approved, like backed, so it's secure up to, I think it's $250,000, whatever the case is. But people that have over that amount of money, I think they're spreading it out to different banks so they don't go over that. It's not insured anymore.
Yeah. Sorry, were you done?
What's that?
Were you still going?
Yeah, what happened?
No, I was going to say about, spreading it out. I was going to say that, you spread it out into different either bank accounts or different, different assets, keeping some money on hand. But, if for those of you, obviously, our family's from Argentina, but like if you go back back in the day when Argentina had that issue with the economy, and they locked everybody out of their bank accounts, so no one can access their bank accounts, which is a huge issue. It caused a lot of problems during that time. I don't know if you saw the documentaries on it, but it was pretty crazy what happened there. So I'm not saying it's going to happen here, but you need to be prepared in case something does happen where they lock us out of our accounts, even if it's temporary. You have to have some kind of money to live off of.
Absolutely. This happened in 2000 in Argentina, where they went through like 6 presidents in a week, and the people could not withdraw money from the bank account. So imagine putting all your savings, your life savings in the account, and going to the bank, and you couldn't withdraw it. Now that hasn't happened here yet, but it doesn't mean it can't happen one day. It says it's insured, but I would still, if everybody goes at the same time to the bank to go take out the money, it's not going to be there. So that's why I say you probably want to have a certain, maybe 10% of your income or savings in your house, or save some cash. I recommend everyone to have at least. I started saving cash or started pulling money out of my account about I think in the beginning of the year. Just started having, you don't want to always carry too much cash because you don't know what can happen. You want to have some, maybe you can get a safe or a safe box, or you do want to have some cash just in case. You should have it anyways, especially here in Florida when the power goes out, when the hurricanes come. You always want to have cash, but more than ever now with this whole banking situation, you don't know what could happen in the next couple months.
Yeah, and another thing that I was talking about this weekend is gold. I guess going back to maybe investing in gold if you have the extra money too, just to have something stable, and in case the dollar does eventually collapse, because it's not looking good. There's a lot of talk going on that we're going to be in a lot of trouble, and if we go back to printing more money soon, it's just going to keep getting worse. Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah, gold is always a good investment to have because it protects your money. It's not going to make you rich per se, but it'll protect you in case the dollar does go down in value. And it's interesting. There's never been one single, because currency is what the US dollar is, the currency. It's the world currency, but there's never been one currency to survive. Every single currency in the world has always gone to zero eventually. So I've done this research by watching this guy on YouTube. He had a whole series on this where For some reason, people think that the U.S. dollar is going to survive. The none in history has ever. They always gone to zero. It's just a matter of how long can they drag it out for. Is it going to be another year? Is it going to be another 10 years, another 20 years? But eventually, every single currency goes to zero. Look at Argentina. They had that crisis. Now their inflation is at 104% as of today. Another example. I mean, these are South American countries, but the dollar is obviously stronger, but it doesn't mean it's not going to fall one day.
Yeah, I've never, in the time that I've been living, obviously we've been here all life, but I've never felt uncomfortable about the U.S.'s financial situation. And so even in 2008, where we were still, we were adults, we were working. I was, a little stressed, but like I feel more stressed right now because I feel like we are very unstable, not only with the economy, the financial economy, but like as um just a country in general with people. We're more divided already as it is, and I feel like with the financial problems, it's gonna, like a relationship, right? If you're in a relationship and you have financial problems, you're already not good with your spouse, and then the money causes more issues. Now we are, as a country, we're not really, united, and if we have a huge financial collapse or something like that's going to happen, you can just imagine what could happen, with people. So they're going to get desperate. Things are going to get pretty rocky. So just be prepared. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but also be prepared in, worst case scenario.
So do you remember when we bought the house back in right when all this happened with the banking situation,
2007. Yeah.
2007? But at the time, I do remember it was nearly not as bad as this, as far as the whole. Maybe I was in my 20s, but I remember not being so much like I don't remember the inflation. I don't remember the whole. It was just mostly the banks, the housing market situation. It wasn't
Yeah.
the whole economy. This is like a perfect storm situation where you have the economy, you have businesses closing down every week, you have layoffs happening, you have the banks failing, you have the US dollar that's supposedly going to be extinct pretty soon, according to what a lot of people are saying around the world. So there's so many variables right here that kind of causing this perfect storm that I think, I mean, a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of like Robert Kiyosaki's been calling it for years. A lot of these guys are all invested in gold and silver, but they've been calling it for years, but it's only a matter of time. And now they're saying that the stock market is going to take a big hit. So once these banks start to collapse, the next thing you see is the stock market take a big dip.
Yeah. And the stock markets are going to affect any retirement you got going on. So, for those, I'm sure if anyone has a 401k or any retirement savings, you saw a big dip in it in the last year or two. I'm sure it's going to get hit again if anything does happen, because it's going to be,
Yeah.
it was pretty brutal just the last year.
And for us, we're far away from retirement. But for
Yeah.
people that are in their 60s and they lose half of their retirement in a week or so or overnight, that's huge. That's their life savings.
Yeah.
You remember when we purchased that house back in 2007, and then within a year, I think it was 2 years. Do you remember how much value it lost just within the 2 years?
Yeah. I mean, it went down a lot. I mean, it took, when did we sell it?
We
It
bought it
took,
in 2007. And then by 2008, 2000, because that's when the crash happened,
yeah.
the banking and all the values of the homes, they went down from
It dropped like $50,000 within like a year or something, like easily.
2000 just like that. So that you're literally at that point, you have two options. You live in it or you rent it out, and that's
Yeah.
it. You're not going to sell it
Yeah.
because you're upside down.
And luckily we were kind of able to stick it out long enough to not come upside down on it. But it's right now the prices of every single house out here is just super inflated, and they're going to go down sooner. Eventually they're going to go down. I don't know. I see a lot of realtors. I have a lot of friends of realtors that keep talking about like, oh, they brag about the real estate market, how it's so great. Obviously they're salespeople. They're trying to make money while they can, which I understand. But if you're a buyer, don't get sucked into like making a bad decision, because right now it is very expensive to live down here in Florida, and to come down here and buy a house that's probably only worth $200,000 and end up spending $500,000 or $600,000 for it, just wait it out. Rent is expensive, but rent for a little bit until the market drops, and then go out and buy your house if you need to.
What I want to talk about now is the buy versus rent. But before we jump into that, have you watched The Big Short?
Yeah.
Is it called The Big Short?
Yeah.
All right. Remember that scene where Christian Bale?
Yeah.
He walks into the bank and he shorts the whole entire bank that's been around for 100 years. And the bankers are laughing in his face and accepting the proposal that he's doing. Like he's shorting the bank, like saying your bank is going to go out of business. That's been here for 100 years, and everybody in the bank is just laughing at him. It's like they took his money, and then a couple months later, he calls the bank and they want to reverse the transaction. That's what real estate agents basically sound like today. Oh yeah, buy today. It's great. It's a great deal to buy today,
Yeah.
but you don't know what's going to happen the next couple months because these houses can drop overnight or in a week or so or a month, and this whole market can come crashing down. I'm not sure if it's going to be that way with the real estate, but I'm for sure 100% it's going to be this way with the economy.
Oh, well, I think the real estate, yeah, I think the real estate is going to drop faster than everything else. I mean, because that's very volatile. Like we were saying, we bought our house and within a few months or a year, it dropped like 50, 60 grand, like instantly. So the real estate market is going to get hit really hard, really fast when it does happen. I think everything else is going to taper down or come to, eventually slow down. But the real estate market, I feel like is going to be impacted really quickly when it does happen.
So the question is, are we heading into recession? Because the optimists say we're not going to be in a recession. The people that are more, they've been studying the markets for a year, the trends are saying we're heading right into a recession, and possibly even a depression. What do you think?
I mean, I think there's a recession definitely happening, or we're on our way to one. It's hard right now because I still see a lot of people spending money. Restaurants are super busy. You go like Disney's always busy. Like people are still spending lots of money. People are still buying houses. I think it hasn't really caught up to them yet. I went to Publix. I go to Publix like a couple times a week, grocery store to buy stuff. And I was in there the other day, and every time I go in there, I just get more and more nervous because, if you're feeding yourself, if you're a single person, it's not a big deal. But if you have a family to take care of, I was buying I think it was ground turkey breast this time last year. And I was buying a lot of it because we were eating it, trying to eat clean. It was around $5 to $6 a pound average. I mean, that was for the whole year. Right now, I went back the other day to buy some $8. That same package is $8, and it's been every week it goes up. This week it's $8. Next week it could be something like the gallon jug of water that I've been drinking. This was like 70 cents last
That's
year. What?
Now it's $1.
It's a dollar. I think it was $1.09.
Yeah, that's how they get you. They raise it 30 cents here, 40 cents here. And then by the end of the month, you just spend.
So what I'm getting at is that luckily we're in a financial situation where we're making decent money, right? We're not broke and on the streets. I don't understand how a family who lives off of minimum wage can survive, because literally if we weren't doing well for ourselves, I cannot afford a shop at Publix, and probably even with Walmart's prices and everything else going up, like it's hard. I mean, hard to live. They want you to you're trying to eat healthy because you're healthy. You're getting older, eat healthier, feed your kids healthy foods, but it's so damn hard. I mean, how are you going to feed your kids healthy foods when you can't afford to buy chicken or meat anymore?
Yeah, we're not basically in a place where we're trying to live on less anymore. It's about making more money. There's no way out of this. It's the only way you're out of it is make more money. No. Because you can only cut back so much. And what is it? 70% of American households live paycheck to paycheck. Doesn't mean they're broke. It just means that they pretty much spend all the money that's coming in. So imagine with the inflation going up, now they're really spending more money than they're making. And then you know how they're doing that? Credit cards. People are not talking about the credit card debt. People have put more money on their credit cards in the last year. I think I was reading an article than I don't know how many years combined. Like it's been insane how many people are using credit cards. So just because you see people at restaurants, you see people out and about going on vacation, you can literally get a credrit card and they'll give you $10,000 to spend, and all you got to do at the end of the month is pay back $45.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of bankruptcy going on because there's no way these people are racking up these credit cards and paying them back.
Dude, I'm like, I ask people like, yo, how do you do this? How do you go on vacation every week, every month? You seem like you're in a different country. They're putting it on credit cards. And then eventually, yeah, if you have discipline, you pay it off. But it gets to a point that the balance becomes so high that they start taking chunks of paying it off. Like, I can't pay off the $4,000. I'll just pay off $2,000, and then I'll roll over and you pay interest on that. And
You need to be making, if you're not making $100,000 like right now, and you have a brand new vehicle, you have a house, and you're traveling and going out, there's no way you can afford that stuff, because $100,000 does not go that far anymore, especially with the prices of vehicles and living. I
What's
mean,
a what is it,
what's that?
65, $70,000 a year?
What's that?
Thousand after taxes?
I mean, yeah, let's just be generous, say 70, 75,000, whatever. That's being generous. But what's the average price of a car right now? Like the average car note. Let me see. Average.
I know the payments are, what were they, like six something? The payments, the average payment was,
Let's see.
that's
So
another.
so the average car payment right now for monthly car payment is $716. $700 for the average car payment right now.
Chris, there was an article,
Unbelievable.
I wanted, because you brought this up. There was a guy that does, he was calling tow truck companies, and he's never seen so many repos. So the repo mark, as far as the people that are getting their car repossessed, that has to do with people not being able to pay their, obviously, their companies. They're spending way too much money, or they're not making enough.
Yeah.
So that's another factor. All these things are happening at the same time. People are not really talking about them, but we're going to see where the next 12 months are. We're going to be in the next 12 months, but I think the layoffs are next. I think we're going to see a lot of layoffs. I think we've already started seeing them, but
Yeah, the big ones are happening now. But there's going to be a lot more of the smaller companies starting to lay off. And remember a few years ago when everyone was talking about, like, oh, the minimum wage needs to be $15 an hour. Oh, we got to pay these people. And I kept saying, as a small business owner, like, yeah, that's great. And when you talk about it, but in reality, you're going to be paying all these new people with no, entry level $15 an hour, which means that if you have existing employees that have been with you for a while, and let's just say they're making $20 now because they've been there for a few years, now you have to raise everyone's income. And as a small business, it's not sustainable. So, this is why, and we're kind of jumping subjects here, but this is why a lot of these companies are using robots now, and eventually it's going to be so many people out of work because of this.
Yeah, how many people are being replaced because of that right now? So that's another
Yeah.
thing. I just went to Bed Bath and Beyond because they went out of business. They had a huge sale here down the street. So I went in the store. Everything is pretty much marked down 30, 20%. There's nothing left in the store pretty much. I
Really?
went to buy some pillows, but all those people in that store are not going to have a job in the next couple of weeks. They're all going to be laid off,
And
So
it's not only that store, it's every store
every store in
across
the
the country. Yeah.
every country.
It's
So
crazy.
you want to go ahead and talk about real quick, should people be, I think we answered this question already, but buying or renting? You know,
My opinion is not to buy anything right now. Um, if you can find somewhere to rent, I know it's expensive, but if you can find somewhere to rent right now, even if you have to live with like family or friends, rent, save some money up if you can, and wait until the prices on these houses go down. I would never buy a house right now, because even like if we wanted to sell our house right now, we can make a ton of money on it. But we cannot find anything in a comparison to this for like anything less than double. It's crazy, dude. Like I'm like, we got this house really cheap, but I'm saying like we can still make a lot of money, and going out and trying to find something, it'd be impossible to find something that's even comparable to what we live in. So
yeah,
I would say rent. And then especially, and if you have a vehicle that's either paid off or close to being paid off, do not get into another vehicle right now. I finally, mine's been paid off this about a year now. I'm so glad I did not buy another vehicle, because I've been keeping it working and just gonna ride it out until it falls apart, because it's not worth buying a new vehicle and paying way too much money for it.
they're overpriced right now too. But going back to the buy versus rent, before, if you want to, let's say you're renting and you were renting for, I don't know, $1,200-$1,400 a month, and you could get a mortgage maybe for less, maybe equal to that or less than that, and you were going to stay in the house for 5 years, so you were going to be there. It made sense. Now it's completely changed. My friend down here in Fort Lauderdale, he rented the place out. He was renting, and he was paying $1,700 a month for a 2-bedroom in Fort Lauderdale. It was a buy owner, so he bought the property. He put 20, I don't know how much money. I think he spent like 50, $60,000 putting money down. His rent to his mortgage went from 1,700 to $2,500 a month. So now he's cash broke because he put all the money into the house. And on top of it, he has the situation where his mortgage for his rent from his mortgage increased almost $1,000. So I don't know. Is that a good decision? I mean, he can probably rent it out down the road. I'm sure he's going to be able to sell it. It's in a good area, but those are decisions you have to make. And I think right now it's just better to wait, rent, try to save some money when the time comes. If you want to buy, then go ahead and buy. But I would not be buying anything right now because you don't know what the market's going to be like. And
Yeah.
not goes on sale.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like if you're buying a house right now, unless you have a lot of money to kind of just to throw away, it's a stupid move. And, I know people are, brag about, oh, my house. Listen, and right now you cannot brag about your $700,000 house because you just got ripped off. I mean, basically that's what you're bragging about. Back like 5 years ago, if you bought a $700,000 house, you got a nice house. I mean, now you're buying a shithole for 700 grand.
Yeah. And and plus when you buy a house for 700,000 and you buy it at 6% interest, the house is not
Yeah,
700,000.
yeah,
Everybody thinks that that's the price of, if you stay in that house for 30 years, that house is over $1 million.
$1 million, yeah, easily.
Yeah, it's the interest. That's why the interest points, just 0.25% interest makes a huge difference on a mortgage payment. The first
Yeah,
10 years, all you're paying is pretty much just interest. You're not even tapping into the principal unless you're making payments to
yeah,
go to.
double payments. But
Yeah.
like, you got to think about it. Just because even like the monthly payment on the house that expensive, even a monthly payment on a house that's $300,000, it's pretty high for the average American. I mean, you can't, like, if you got a family and you got other bills to pay, spending 2 to 3 grand on a mortgage is ridiculous. I don't know how people do. I mean, how people do it, or even want to do it, because I would not be moving out, selling my house to go into a $3,000 monthly payment.
$4,000 mortgages are like becoming common now. 35, 4,000 for what do you
That's
call it?
someone's salary. That's literally someone's salary, an average salary.
Crazy because they're splitting it between two households, but that's a lot of money. And the thing is, the people that buy are always saying, well, you're just throwing your money away if you rent. That's true, but at the same time, you're not stuck.
Yeah,
If you rent, you can move, right? You have
yeah,
access to, like, I have to say, and then plus you have cash. The goal is not to be renting and not saving any money. That's bad. But if you're renting, you should be saving money and you should be stacking cash. That way you have options. But if you're stuck, you're cash broke, you can't sell your house, then you're in a really bad position. You can always rent it. That's a good option. You can always rent it.
and
Especially,
no one ever talks about, like, when you own a house, you have to maintain your house. When you're renting, someone else is taking care of it. You got the lawn, things break, the AC, the water heater, all your appliances. If something happens, a storm comes in, knocks something out. Like, it's not just your mortgage. Every month you have hundreds, if not thousands of dollars you have to worry about fixing stuff because it needs to be taken care of. And unless you plan on letting your house fall apart, which I don't recommend, but some people don't care enough to take care of their house, then you lose all your value because no one's going to want to buy that shithole that you just destroyed, and pay top dollar for it.
yeah, unless you're like a handyman. I remember I've owned and I rented. The nice thing about renting, anytime anything breaks, I just laugh. I go to my computer, I log in, I type an email, and then in 24 hours it's fixed.
Yeah.
If you're owning, you're hurting right there because you know that's going to come out of your pocket. If the
Yeah.
AC breaks, that's a couple $1,000. If the water heater goes out or whatever the case might be, I know when we had the other property, when things would break, we would split the cost, but that would be like, it would always be something little, like something that we'd have to always come out of pocket for.
Yeah. And, the AC nowadays, like, they're not cheap anymore. Like, it's 5 to 9 grand for an AC unit. If it breaks, the shingles on your roof, if they get damaged, or, the insurance doesn't want to have you insured anymore because now your roof is going to cost you 20 something thousand dollars to replace. Whatever, like, the pool or the water heater, whatever you have going on in the house, it's a very expensive thing to keep up with. So renting is definitely beneficial, to keeping your costs down while you're trying to figure something out.
I would say this: if there's someone on this podcast, listening to this podcast, that's well off, that has two, three, $400,000 in the bank, they're making $250,000 a year, they're stable, they got money, they see a good deal, they can go buy, man. Like it's not going to make a big difference for them. But we're talking about just the average American middle class person that's working very hard, trying to get by. We're talking about those people because that's what seems to be. Those seem to be the people that are always in a rush to buy. The
Yeah.
people that shouldn't be buying.
The people that don't have money,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
like, why
it's
are
like
you?
ghetto fabulous. They want to live like, like they're balling.
Yeah, it's like, why are you buying? It's like my American dream. American dream is to buy a house. The American dream is to buy a house when you're ready to buy. Most
Yeah.
people are not. If you're giving up your whole entire life savings to buy a house, you should not be buying. You should still have 6 months to a year emergency fund saved up after buying the house. You shouldn't be spending all your money and then something breaks. You don't know how you're going to fix it.
Yeah.
That's just a position to be in. The stress is freaking ridiculous on that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think you should be, if your income is, what I guess if it's combined income, over, I don't know, let's say over
Well,
150 combined
yeah.
income, then maybe consider it. If you're anywhere near under $100,000 by yourself or combined, do not be buying a house right now. It's not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, what's the average house payment or the average cost? I think it's over almost 400,000, 350, 360 is the
Yeah.
average.
Yeah. I
It's,
mean, you're not finding back in the day. I mean, our house, when we were young, our parents bought our house. Was it like 40 grand, I think, when they bought that house?
$1,000.
Yeah.
Bought it. This was what, 20 years ago?
When we first moved down, I don't know. I was probably 10 years old when it happened, 30 years ago. So
We bought ours 2007 and it was under 200,000 and it was brand new construction.
yeah,
Lakeview. And this was that same house right now is probably going for what? 4?
I don't know. I haven't checked the Zillow. I gotta go on there and see what
Isn't
we
that,
lost
isn't that
on.
crazy? The real estate always, if you hold on to it, it goes up over time. But
I would never pay that. The fact that we paid anywhere near 200,000 was probably the most I would have paid for that place, because it's not, it's a townhouse, so you have a neighbor against that wall, no parking. It's definitely not worth $400,000 for sure. I would never pay $400,000 for that house.
at the time, one night, what was it? Under
Yeah,
200.
well, at the time it seemed like a great deal, but everything changes. So, like I said, we were lucky to be able to get back up there to make a little bit of money off of it. But
Let me stop you. If I saw that house right now for 194, whatever it was at the time, I'll go buy it right now.
yeah,
You're not, because that payment would be $1,000 less than I'm renting right now.
yeah,
Less. Now, that was 10 years, right? Because it was a fixed mortgage. Looking back, how much I pay now in rent in South Florida, because the rents here are ridiculous for a one bedroom, a two
and
bedroom.
it's not even. I mean, Florida. I mean, yeah, obviously, Florida is like a really expensive place to live right now. But I go on there, like the realtor websites, and like look across the country, and it's not cheap to live really anywhere. I mean, even like living out, I look for land, and if I want to go move somewhere, and it has to be in the middle of nowhere with nothing around you to be somewhat affordable.
Well, Texas was the place that everybody would compare it to. It's like, well, $200,000 or $300,000 here will buy you this, and you go to Texas, you see what $300,000 would buy you would be like a freaking mansion and like an acre of land. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think that was for a little bit. I don't think it's really like that everywhere. I feel like some of the stuff you see on social media is a little bit misleading. Because there's a lot of people moving here from Texas, and they're saying it was expensive over there too.
Well, for
So,
example, you guys bought at a phenomenal time.
yeah, well, we bought like after the kind of the recession, and people were like already in foreclosure, so we kind of got lucky. But I mean, it's going to happen again if the market crashes. But so you have to just be ready for it. Wait it out, and if people start foreclosing, or there's short sales going on or auctions at the courthouse, like, be ready to buy at that point, but don't buy right now.
The thing about, I keep going back to Florida because Florida and Texas, I think, are the two states that are different because everybody moved here. Everybody moved to Texas and everybody moved to Florida. So we have such a high demand of people coming in. And that's why the real estate market is not really being affected. The prices are not going down yet. But I think once that calms down a little bit, I think we're going to see some prices come down.
Yeah, for sure. But Guys, we gotta wrap this up. We got less than a minute here. So if you like the video, please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're doing a giveaway here in the near future, so you have to be subscribed to enter. Leave some comments below in your thoughts, any opinions or questions. Sebastian, what do you got to say?
That's it. We're going to be giving away Bud Light. Remember.
Yeah, right. You're gonna be drinking that shit. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks.